Hi everyone, I'm Flame and welcome to my first video. For those who don't know, my name is Chloe and I'm 20 and I'm a psychology student, though next year hopefully I'll be doing my teacher training, as teaching is something that I always wanted to do. That's just a quick introduction because I really wanted to get into this new thing that I want to do on YouTube called Tea Spill Tuesdays, where I talk about issues that I think are important in the online spiritual and pagan community. As someone who's wants to teach and has been in academia for a very long time, I feel I really don't like the spread of any kind of misinformation. But as someone who is also Wiccan, and knowing that paganism and Wicca and these kind of things don't have any kinds of structure or authority figure, I think it's particularly dangerous for misinformation to be spread in this community because there's no one to really control all that. So I thought it'd be cool if people like me or other witchy YouTubers who are much bigger in the community could comment on certain issues. So as you could probably tell by my title, I will be addressing the YouTuber Azura DragonFae. And for those who don't know who that is, she's a witchy YouTuber who has quite a big following, and she's been on YouTube for some time now. And I used to be a massive fan of her. By the way, I'll be drinking a different type of tea every week for this. This is just Tetley green tea. I don't know if you can get it anywhere else. You can get it in Britain. And as I was saying, when I first came across Wicca like 3 or 4 years ago, she was the first witchy YouTuber I found, and I loved her stuff, and I was such a big fan even up until a few months ago. You can see, and I comment on her videos and stuff like that, and I really was a big fan. But about 1 or 2 years ago, she made a video about dragons, and I was like, dragons actually exist? She actually thinks this? And it got me questioning her, and after doing some reading and getting some experience, I thought, I came around to the idea that dragons could exist. But it also taught me a lesson that it's okay to question people, even if it's people you like. Questioning is healthy. It's way better than just following someone like mindless sheep. Pardon the Welsh pun. But I started questioning people, in my everyday life, and I thought it was quite an enlightening experience. But things started to take a turn with Azura for me when she created her DragonFae video. She claims that DragonFae are fairy and dragon hybrids, and she says it's after getting the DragonFae Oracle deck, which I do admit is a very pretty deck. But the way she claims that they exist makes it seem like they're fact. She claims that gods and goddesses such as Bridget and Morgan Le Fae are DragonFae, and apparently they come up in Celtic mythology. But if you do a quick Google search, even that will tell you there's no research to suggest that this is the case. The only sources I've come across that mention DragonFae are from Azura herself and the author of this deck. Author or creator? But anyways, I know that Azura has quite a young following, a lot of whom are minors and may not have much life experience, and they may just take her words as gospel and not do their own research, which is quite dangerous in a way. And I feel like they need to do their own research before making their minds up about these kind of things. And I should point out now that I don't have any issue with people having their own personal experiences and sharing those experiences, but they should state them as such if they're gonna publicly announce them, or they should at least state that they're UPGs, which stands for Unverified Personal Gnosis, so they're not misconstrued as facts when they're just personal experiences. Azura didn't do this with her video, so loads of fans I know have taken her words as facts and have come out with stuff like the Dragon Kin, or they've worked with these DragonFae creatures despite no evidence suggesting that they exist. But this isn't the only time she has spread this kind of misinformation. In December, she put a video up about working with fairies, and this was riddled with misinformation. And in the beginning, I just put a post on Spirituality Amino about this, which I then posted in other Amino communities, but my intention was just to correct the information and highlight how important it is to do your own research. I'm going to briefly touch on about it, but I'm going to leave the link to my post in the description so you can check it out yourself. So in her video and her post, which she puts on the Hatchling Clan, she mentions that the video is sponsored, and whilst this in itself is not bad, the sponsorship is of a mummified fairy model, which in itself may seem kind of cool, but in a video that's supposed to help you work with real living fairies, this might seem a bit disrespectful, but that's just a minor issue. Next, she states that fairies originate from Europe, more specifically Celtic mythology, and whilst this is true, there are fairies from Europe, by no means are they limited to just Europe. If you look at Japan, they have the yokai like Tengu and Kappa. There are other ones like in Icelandic folklore, there's Huldra folk, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. They just go by different names, but fairies are no means limited to just Europe. Later on in the video, she mentions that fairies are the personification of nature, and whilst this is one theory, there's no one set theory that people agree on of what fairies are. There are other ones like that they are fallen angels, or they're the pagan dead in purgatory. And whilst this is one theory that she mentions in a video, she could have brought up other ones so her followers could make up their own minds and their own beliefs of what fairies are. But again, that's just a minor point. She says that they do have their own societies, they do have their own hierarchy, which is correct, but then she mentions that they have their own religions and things, which again there's no evidence to suggest that there are. She talks about fairy etiquette, and while she's writing this, it doesn't cover up some of the other misinformation she presents, like if you want to work with fairies, you should probably be vegan. And that's my biggest gripe with the video, because not everyone can be vegan. People have health issues and they may not transition into veganism healthily. So although I don't have an issue with veganism in itself, this was quite a bad point to make, especially considering fairies do like offerings like honey, seashells, feathers, which aren't particularly vegan. And I found this especially weird for her to say, considering, I've been told that on her Instagram story she actually admits that she eats eggs, and while she says that she doesn't eat commercially produced eggs, it's still not 100% vegan, so that was a big hiccup on her part. I know if she stated that this was all her personal experience, or if it was if she says that it's a UPG, then I wouldn't really have an issue with it. But seeing as she didn't, then that causes problems. I didn't mention her name at all in my post, and I tried to give her credit when it was due, and I tried to remain as impersonal as possible, you know, to not be accused of like picking on her or anything like that. But I'm bringing this up now because in my post on the Spirituality Amino, she outs herself when she commented on my post admitting to it being her video, so I assume she wouldn't have an issue with me talking publicly about this. She could have messaged me privately, but you know, she commented publicly, and judging by her comments, it didn't seem like she took anything I said on board. Now, I can't see her comments at the moment because after this she blocks me on this Amino community and other communities and Instagram, so I don't have the opportunity to discuss this with her. But as I said, I'll leave a link to the post below, and you can see for yourself her comments, which shows that she didn't take my points on board. Which is a shame because I wasn't trying to bully her or anything like that. I just wanted to show how important it is for people to do their own research and not take everything so literally online. I thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. I was sitting at my boyfriend's when I was visiting him for New Year, and I got a notification for a latest video. I got him to put it on because it was a book review for Harmony Nice's book, who is like amazing. I love Harmony Nice. And so we watched, and before she actually got onto the content of the video, she goes into Wicca and witchcraft on social media, and she said that you should do your own research. And whilst I'll give her some credit for this, it seems awfully convenient that she says this after my post, and after my post gains popularity on various different Amino communities. It's up to you what you believe in that. Azura later says to take everything you see online with a grain of salt. I think it should have been pinch of salt, but there we go. Even her own videos. But then she immediately goes on to say that she researches her ass off before creating videos. So I had to question this because it's been multiple occasions where she has in fact spread misinformation. And if she gives out the most accurate information that she can, why does she say to take her own work with a pinch of salt? Even before she blocked me on social media, on her post I could not see any proper credible sources, so I don't know, this seems a bit iffy to me. It just seems like she's covering her own ass. But there we go. Make up your own mind about that. She has done a more recent video where she talks about what's been going on in her life and stuff like that, and she has been going through issues, and I do feel sorry for her. Like, growing up and moving out is not easy, and I understand the struggle of that myself. But she mentions that she's been getting a lot of online hate recently, which is something she's never had to deal with before. And I don't know whether this is solely talking about my post or not, but if she has been suffering other online abuse, like, my heart goes out to her, because it's really not a nice thing for anyone to go through. But I believe that she is just talking about my post because she literally says, maybe there's no historical evidence that backs up something you feel strongly passionate about and connected to, doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And whilst I can understand this in some regards, you know, after my posts, you know, with all the links and stuff correcting her misinformation, it does seem a bit odd. But if you have I believe if you have a big following who you want to teach, then you should provide them with information that is accurate and credible. If you just want to go off any old source, any source that is not credible, or your own personal experience, then why try to teach someone, you know? Because teachers are supposed to give you viable information, and if they just talk about subjective personal experiences, then what's the point in teaching them anything? Because surely those people, you could just say, "I'll go out and find out for yourself." You want to provide someone with a basis for learning, and then they can go and explore it for themselves. So I don't know, it's a bit odd to me. So overall, I think that Azura gives out misinformation, and when she is corrected, she tries to cover her own ass by saying stuff like, this is another quote, "Don't let people tell you what sources are credible." This is a bit of a red flag for me, and I do hope that I'm underestimating her followers and they do actually go and find their own research. But looking at like the hatchling clan and stuff like that, I do know that people do take her word as gospel in some cases. So that's all I really had to say for this week. Sorry if it was a bit rambly and unstructured. I'm new to talking on camera, so anyways, I will hopefully see you next week if there is more to talk about. But Nosta.